what's up guys? My name is Zach and today I am driving a 2007 Mercedes CLK550 Coupe. Up front is a 5.5 liter V8 and down below is a 7-speed automatic transmission. And if you want to read more of my thoughts, head on over to carmarshal.com/overdrive where I'll be writing a complete article about the CLK550 Coupe. But let's get back to that 5.5 liter V8. Alright, let's get some sound here. Wow, that actually picks up a lot quicker than I thought it would. So as you just saw, this has a 5.5 liter V8 that puts out about 360, 370 horsepower, and it does not mess around. I really didn't expect it to be so... It feels actually pretty quick. Now, it doesn't shout. I was kind of expecting when it kind of throws you back in your seat and whatnot, I thought it would shout and bark and yell at you, but really, you just kind of hear the noise up front. You don't really get much noise behind you, which is actually kind of an interesting experience because I'm so used to, you know, loud induction noises being paired with loud exhaust notes, but this, you hear the grumble up front, but not necessarily out back, which actually is super considerate to other drivers. So when you're ripping on it, you're not blowing the eardrums out of everyone around you. Now, paired to it is an automatic transmission, and it does okay. It's 2007. You can't really ask too much out of older automatics. I'm kind of spoiled in the fact that I've driven a lot of new automatics, and really in the past 11 years since this was put out, automatic transmission technology has moved miles ahead of what it used to be. But so far while driving it, I haven't noticed any weird clunks. I haven't really noticed any weird quirks about it. It's just an automatic transmission and it does what it does. Now, this car is rear-wheel drive, which is awesome, and something you really don't see anymore. Bigger luxury cars are mostly all-wheel drive now. But this is rear-wheel drive, and this is actually... So let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me I have 3 large gauges. In the center is the speedometer. To the right is my tachometer, which is by tens multiplied by 100 instead of 1,000. So it's now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, which is interesting. Volkswagens do that. And then to the left is actually a clock I'm now noticing. I thought that was an extra gauge. It's just a clock, which I kind of miss cars having clocks on the dash. It's actually a really nice feature. Then on either side of the gauge cluster, there is fuel on the left and temperature on the right, which are both displayed as almost like graduated cylinders you would see in science class in high school. They're like bars that look like they're filled up with a liquid, but they're obviously not. I think that's a really interesting touch, and I've never actually seen that on a car. On the steering wheel, I have a couple buttons to control the center screen on the gauges, as well as my phone feature, so you can do hands-free calling with this, which is actually pretty neat for 2007. Behind the steering wheel, I have paddle shifters, which I'm not going to get into. In the center, there's 2 heating vents, a bunch of empty buttons, which is really interesting. This is the 550, and this has the AMG package on it, and there are so many empty buttons up here. I don't even possibly know what any of these buttons are. Any Mercedes fans out there, anyone who owns this car, if you know what these buttons are, please let me know, because I don't know what else would go there. You have your central locking and unlocking button, which is a nice feature. Then you have your stereo system, which is just a stereo system. It's not like modern cars where you also get your information through the middle screen. This is just a radio. Then down below that, you have heating and cooling. Then you just have your shifter, and that's it. You get 1 cup holder, and then your center console actually slides open like a trap door to reveal 2 more cup holders. But if you don't want this open, then you only get the 1 cup holder. Now, this car is a coupe. It's not a 4-door, which I think is interesting. I'm not usually the biggest fan of huge coupes, but driving in here, it's actually pretty nice. I don't feel like it's a coupe. Now, a lot of times, you know, a coupe almost feels like an unfinished car to me, but I really don't get that feeling with this. This feels like a full car. It just happens to have 2 less doors. All right, it's kind of loud out here, but we're gonna see how easy it is to get in the back. So, put my right foot in. I'm gonna snake my way in here. Wow. Okay, so honestly, it might be hard to hear me because there is a highway right out there, but it's actually really comfortable back here. I do get my own window switches, if I can reach them. There we go. So there is no B-pillar. I think that's really cool. So you can open up pretty much the whole side of the car. I do get a center console with 2 pop-out cup holders, which is pretty nice. Stick that back there. I have a cigarette lighter and 2 vents. Really, for being a coupe, for being a 2-door, this is a really nice back seat. It wasn't too hard to get into. You're not going to want to put your grandparents back here with their bad backs, but it can be done. I'm obviously, as you can see, a pretty big guy, and I'm pretty comfortable, and I didn't move the seat forward at all. So for being a coupe, I actually am genuinely impressed by this back seat, just how comfortable it is, the amenities that I get. Like I said, vents, cigarette lighter, my own window switches, and cup holders. So all said and done, this is actually a really nice back seat. Normally, I'm not a big fan of coupes, but this is really interesting. Oh, and I get my own little pull handle, too. Another interesting thing is that this is a tan interior, which, honestly, I don't mind. I like tan interiors. It's just there's a weird color combo. The top of the dash is a different tan than the bottom of the dash. But it's just this weird mix. I feel like if you're gonna do a tan, you should really do one tan and stick with that. Unless they're 2 very different colors. But these are close enough to where I wonder if it was on purpose or not. Now the driver's seat, in which I'm sitting in currently, has memory seats, and you can save up to 3 different driving positions. So say if you were a man and you bought this for your husband or wife, they could have a setting, you could have a setting, and your kid could have a setting, your neighbor could have a setting, whoever else you want to have a setting in your car. You can select 3, which even on modern cars, it's usually limited. It's 1, 2, and set, or like S, usually to set whatever it is. But no, this actually has 3 different settings. Even more surprisingly is the passenger seat gets 3 settings that are memory, which I haven't seen that in any modern car. So I think that's a really nice feature. So you got 3 settings here, you can have 3 more settings over there. So really everyone in the neighborhood can get a setting if you really want them to have one. Now up top here, there's of course dome lights, your switch for the sunroof, which it does have a sunroof. Let's open that up before I get to that. Ooh, that's nice. That is a nice sunroof. But up here, I noticed a giant SOS button. I don't know what that is, but I don't know who that's gonna call, and I'm really not gonna press it. But I assume that was like roadside assistance or something for Mercedes at the time, but I'm gonna assume it doesn't work anymore. Another thing I'm not the biggest fan of, and I don't mind it, this isn't a deal breaker or anything, but I think in 2007, Mercedes didn't look my personal favorite in the mid-2000s. Now, granted, that's for a lot of reasons. That's for pedestrian safety, it's for aerodynamics, save fuel, all that stuff. But I just personally don't think Mercedes looked their best in the 2000s. But neither did I. But man, no matter how bad I think it might look, that is quick. This thing, I actually let it go through first and second gear this time. Oh, this thing is quick. There's no getting around that. You can't get around that 5.5 liter V8. I mean, it's almost the size of my truck's engine, my pickup truck. You know, the thing built for towing thousands of pounds, the thing built for carrying thousands of pounds in the bed. You put an engine almost that big into a sedan, or sorry, into a coupe. Oh wow, it gives you quite the thrill. I'm trying to think of a car that this is really compared to in my mind. A little bit of the Q50, the Infiniti Q50 that I drove. I get a little bit of that, because this isn't like a rough and tumble, you know, hard suspension vehicle. Like, my first thought was to compare it to the E46 M3 I did. and it feels as fast as that, but it doesn't feel as harsh as that. You know, the M3 is built for performance, and while yes, the 550 was built to perform, it's not as harsh about it. It's like that one kid that doesn't brag when he gets 100% on a test. You all know that there's those kids that are like, oh, I got 100%. But then there's that kid where you go up and ask him like a week later, like, hey, what'd you get on that test? And they're like, I got 100. And that's where the conversation stops. Like, that's what this car feels like. It's not bragging, it's not shouting, it's just, it's good at what it is and it knows it. So what are my overall thoughts and opinions on this Mercedes, the CLK550 from Mercedes? Well, let's start off with the downsides. I'm not totally sold on the looks, and you know what? I think the interior needs a little bit of work. This car's 11 years old, granted, okay, but like the gear shifter's worn down, it just seems like some of the plastics haven't completely held up, that sort of thing. But you forget all of that when you put your foot in it, and it's a very comfortable car. I'm very comfortable right now. The seats are great, the suspension is great, and when you put your foot in it, you go. And you go and go and go. And this, I would have to say, this is probably a better daily driver than the M3. You know, it's 1:30 in the morning. Your friends need a ride home from the bar, or you've been putting in hours at the shop, something like that. You can get in this car and you can relax. I think it says a lot that I know I always talk super loud in these reviews, but I really don't have to. Look, I'm doing, all right, let's get up here to 30. Really normal driving speed, right? And I can talk real quiet like this, and you can still hear me. And I can talk like this, you know, and I can talk normally, and you can hear me. This car is quiet when you want it to be. It's quiet and comfortable. So I want to thank Alex for letting me do this review. We were talking one night about how I've only reviewed a 1984 Mercedes. That's the only other Mercedes that I've driven. And while I really like that, I can't compare. You know, I've been doing all these BMW reviews. I don't really have a point of reference. So now if I do mid-2000s BMWs, I can kind of gauge them against this and say, well, the Mercedes was better this way, the BMW is better this way. If I were to get asked the question, would you buy a 2007 Mercedes CLK 550? It would be a tough one, because I love BMWs, but this car really did impress me. I think with a black interior and maybe some outside modifications, I think this would be a really great car, and I think I'd really enjoy this car. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you guys learned something about the 2007 Mercedes CLK 550. If you want to read more of my thoughts, head on over to carmarshal.com/overdrive. But again, hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys. There goes a sight from my soul.